This holiday season, make the smart choice and switch to Sprint and get a new Samsung Galaxy S8 Active 50% off your lease. That's right, 50% off the GS8 Active, one of Samsung's hottest devices. Plus, with Galaxy Forever, you can upgrade to the latest Galaxy anytime after 12 lease payments. Visit your local Sprint store, sprint.com/holiday deals, or call 1-800-SPRINT1 today.
Requires 18-month lease and new line. $17.71 per month savings via credit applied within 2 bills. Early termination results in remaining balance due, subject to credit and $30 activation fee. Restrictions apply.
Welcome to the Center of Light Radio with spiritual teacher, intuitive, musician, composer, and best-selling author of The Divine Principle, Anchoring Heaven on Earth, your host, Keith Anthony Blanchard.
Coast to coast, pole to pole, all around the world on the internet, thanks to the marvel of technology. I'm coming at you live from my little old guest house in Memphis, Tennessee. This is Keith Anthony Blanchard. You're listening to Center of Light Radio, Center of Divine Unfoldment and Reinforcement Radio for the soul and the transformation station. Are you a spiritual seeker who is ready to move forward in your life? If you're wanting to shift from struggling to feeling that life is effortless, send me an email to book a free session at keithanthonyblanchard@gmail.com. Title that email, Keith, I want my free session, and we'll get you on your way to recognizing, plugging in, and manifesting your life in a very, very cool, easy way to. This is my life work. I've been working all of my life, and I finally got a program and everything that I'm really, really satisfied, and I know it's very effective. That's 100% guarantee. You can go to centeroflightradio.com as well as keithanthonyblanchard.com, same website, and you'll see a red Ferrari. When that car settles down, click on it. It will take you to the page for this particular program, and you will see what you will get as well as what you will be able to create. Wow. Exterior as well as interior. It's all about becoming the thing that you want to bring into your life. Go to that website, check it out. Announcement, if you listen to Center Light Radio for a while, or you've been following me in any platform for a while, you know that I'm always about helping people to move into greater degrees of bliss. Now, Center of Light beings, I want to provide you with an outlet to plug into my RPM energy grid. I recently had a burst of light realization. So what you do is you go to centeroflightradio.com, fill up that sign-up form, and I'm going to start giving you bundles of all of my past works that I used to charge for free. Dig that. Sign it up. You'll start a chain. It will start a chain of events and bundles. These things will begin to arrive to you. Again, that's centeroflightradio.com or keithanthonyblanchard.com, and click on that sign up form and fill it out, and we'll get you going. That's for sure. I just got back from South Louisiana for Thanksgiving holidays. Had a blast. So thank you for the people who are in the room that mentioned that. Also, services, when I was in South Louisiana, this is why I brought it up. I did a house cleaning service. I don't mean I got on my knees with a mop and there was some ghosts in the house, and we lift the vibrations. It's successful just like that. I come with an arsenal of tricks. Come with an arsenal of information, powerful information that'll help you to remove any of those spiritual squatters that are not paying rent and somehow maybe even scaring the bejesus out of you. I will help you with that. 888-919-2355. 888-919-2355 is the number you dial to be on the show with myself or my guest. My guest today, I hope I can pronounce his name. It's a little different for me. Again, his name is Aage Nost. And today we're going to be talking about all things we are not supposed to know about. And if we did, it would change our lives. Let me tell you about my guest today, Aage Nost. He was born on a farm in Norway in Northern Europe. He had to take over much of the work and manage the management of the farm at an early age as a teenager. While still a teenager, he learned hypnosis from a magician in Europe. By the age of 25, he had learned several languages, studied science, including metaphysics, and different forms of theories of spirituality. Between then and now, he has done and been involved in many projects. Aage taught the Subliminal Dynamics Mind Development course, now called Subliminal Dynamics Mind Management, which teaches you to assimilate information from a book at a rate, listen to this, it teaches you to assimilate information from a book at a rate of 50,000 or more words per minute or more. Perfected memory, creative visualization for healing and manifestation, creative goal setting, and other things not taught in the regular school system. He co-wrote a book with author Patricia Ress of Omaha, Nebraska, titled Alien Encounters in America's Midwest. It featured hidden government documents proving the government cover-up of the UFO issue, NASA prints of building and structures on our moon. Boy, we're going to have a lot to talk about today. And personal testimonies from people who have had contacts with extraterrestrials. Aage is also the author of Spiritual Science, Higher Consciousness, Thinking and How to Access the Universal Consciousness, which is now available on Amazon. You can find more about my guest today at www.aage-nost.com. Welcome to Center of Light Radio, Mr. Nost.
Hello, hello. I am with you, and thank you very much for having me on. This is going to be a blast.
Yes, it is. And you and I have been in dialogue here and there over the past for quite a while. We can never make the show land and stick, so I think today we're good to go.
You know, I've been watching you for a while, and I know you're the real deal, and I know you're doing some phenomenally good stuff here. So I've been kind of pestering you for several months to get on the show and maybe be part of it.
Well, I'm glad you're here, bro. Let's just dive right in. Now, I usually start off the show by asking the guests, how they got all started into this movement, this way of being. But your bio pretty much depicted that really clearly. So, in fact, when I made contact with you recently about coming up with a show topic, you sent me a bullet point list of all these different things we can talk about with possible show names, alternative names. And the last one you sent was called All Things We're Not Supposed to Know About, and if we did, it would change our lives. But all those other 9 or 10, I found it fascinating that they would be very good questions to put to you. It's a broad range of topics, so it would make for a very nice, well-rounded show. And the first one, it says, in 2009, 3 doctors got the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process, and no one seems to know. Tell me about this enzyme, because Dr. John Robertson was on my show a while back, and he was really big on the aging thing. So let's start off with that. Tell me about this enzyme that was discovered that no one knows about.
Yeah, this is one of those, I don't know if I should call it secrets or not, because the information is out there, but it's not placed anywhere where people can see it. And first of all, whatever I talk about here, I'll try to back it up by science as much as I can. And that's why I'm telling you now, go to the Nobel Committee's website, go to 2009, scroll down to medical submissions, and read the papers. You're going to like it. Because in there, they talk about, we figured out what causes aging, and by that, what also causes death. And I think we can probably figure out why this is not widely disseminating among the public, because I think we can imagine what would happen to Social Security and the pension programs if people quit dying, right? That wouldn't be a good thing.
Yeah, dying is a pretty lucrative business.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Lots of money in it. First of all, for the undertakers, and for the second, the government get to cash in the bond they have written against you, which is in the high millions. So yeah, it's very comfortable for them. They can do that. But this aging process, that is something that nobody really understands unless you start studying science and read the Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine, and particularly on my website also. I have a blog on that, and in my book about spiritual science and higher conscious thinking, I go into very deeply into how to do this, and it is simple. I didn't say easy, I said simple, because there is a little bit of effort on our part. We have to take a few supplements. And it's obvious that mankind has a capacity for old age. But immortality, do we even want that? I mean, that's a good question, because some of you guys out there has been at your present job for 9 years and you're totally bored stiff already. Could you handle another 275,000 years at the job?
Right.
I'm not so sure of that. But you see, it doesn't work that way, because, after a while, we figured it out that working somebody else's dream is not what we really should do. We should do something that we love to do. And do you remember the saying, find something you'd love to do and you will never work a day in your life?
That's true. That's true. I have a testimony of that.
I've been pretty much able to do that, and that's why I'm having so much fun as I do. And this 2009 is when this Nobel Prize was given to these people for discovering the enzyme. And I run into people all the time, and nobody knows about this. And we have the capacity for old age, because even National Geographic back in the 1930s, they went into South America, into a tribe up by right on the shores of Lake Titicaca, and they found the average age of the person in that tribe was around 130 years old. And the reason they thought was for that, because they were drinking the water that came out from underneath the glacier next to it, drinking the glacier milk, which was full of minerals, trace minerals, and things that the body needs. And that's one thing. But then we have another guy. He was a university professor from China that came to New York in the 1950s. On an exchange program. But there was also a U.S. professor that went to China, to Peking at the time, and there was kind of cultural exchange there. And this Chinese that came to New York, he went out with his colleagues one evening to have dinner, and he got food poisoning and died. And then, of course, you end up at the morgue, and they start looking things over, and they called the ambassador and told the ambassador, something's wrong here, because your man here, he seems to be 154 years old, and that can't be. And the ambassador told them, yes, he is. And he says the reason for that is that, first of all, he only eats Chinese herbs and berries, and he knew he could never die. And that is one of the big keys. But if you think that is extravagant, listen to the next one, because there was also a Chinese martial art master, and the government verified on several occasions that he became 256 years old. And he died from an accident, by the way, not from old age.
Wow.
And, yeah. You see, the thing here is that these people, they don't live like we do in the West. And when we talk about this, if we go further into old records, we find out that, even the Bible talks about Methuselah being 960 years old. Yes. And the Sumerian tablets, they talk about people I mean, people that was around for hundreds of thousands of years. The Sumerian kings list talk about people that was around for, one king was ruling for 56,000 years, and there was another one over 70,000 years. And that was the age of those people. So most scientists, they pass that off. Oh, it's just a myth. You know, somebody wrote that up just for fun. Well, not necessarily. Because there is things they do, or those guys did, in order to maintain that age. And first of all, the 256-year-old Chinese that came, that died, I found out what he ate. You like to know?
Absolutely.
All right. And I know that 19-year-old kids out there listening to this, they're not going to be very interested because, hey, they got the whole life in front of them and they don't think about death. But don't run away right now. Let's think about this. Maybe your dad and your mom would be interested in hearing this. So just sit it out and let them know about it. Because this 256-year-old man, he was a martial art master, for one thing. And he, of course, meditated, they all do. And he ate Chinese herbs and berries. One of the, some of the things that he ate, and it probably is a partial list, but I know the important part of it is listed here. He ate ling shi and goji berries. And he also ate wild ginseng. And also something called he shou vu. And then gotukula. And the most important of them probably was astragalus. And of course, then also I didn't see that, but I'm sure that he also took a whole bunch of something called jiaogalan tea. Jiaogalan is called the immortality herb in China, and I'm sure there's a reason for that. And in my book, I also go into more details about how to do this and what I do and so on, because I am doing this, and it seems to be working for me. This thing that I know specifically women complain about, that's called crow's feet around your eyes.
Right.
I had some of those, and they seem to be going away, so I know something is happening.
Oh, wow. I'm going to definitely check out the list in that book, that's for sure. 888-919-2355. 888-919-2355 is the number to dial again on the air with myself or my guest today, Aage Nost. I had a friend, still have a friend, haven't seen him in some years. He was an alien human hybrid by the name of Nucleus 8, and people who return to the show know about my time with alien human hybrid Nucleus 8, who happens to be head of security for this quadrant of our galaxy. And some of my time with him, sharing some of the stories about his life and who he is and all that good stuff. When I was hanging out with him, he was 4,720 years old. That was some years ago. So now he's about 4,740. But when I was hanging out with my alien human hybrid friend, this is way before the Corey Goode, David Wilcock cosmic disclosure stuff. He told me a long time ago, he says, wait till it comes to light in your future, Keith, on Earth, on your planet. What's going on the dark side of the moon. So if you would, tell us about the Solar Warden and the secret space program. And we have a lot of ground I'd like to cover. So if you can give me just the really juicy stuff about these questions I'm going to put, because I really want to cover a lot of these things, because you got some really good stuff here. Give me some insight, and listening audience, some insight about what's happening, what is the Solar Warden, and what is the secret space program?
Okay, let me ask you first, how much time do we have so I know how to pace myself?
The show lasts an hour, and we're coming close to the bottom, believe it or not. We have about another 40 minutes. So
Okay.
we're going to expand the show, hopefully very near future. I need to speak with Mr. Bob to talk about expanding the show another hour. So again, let's go back to the question, the Solar Warden and the Secret Space Program.
Yeah, the Solar Warden, that is, a few people have heard the term, but look at the word. Solar, we understand. Warden, what is a warden? A warden is one that keeps prisoners. And the Solar Warden is a government project hidden in deep darkness. It's some 8 to 12 levels above the normally called top secret. It is probably one of the most secret programs that is out there, because this is funded by the $9 trillion worth of missing money from the defense budget.
Ah.
And when you have $9 trillion, tell me one thing you can't build. I don't think you can come up with anything. You will find a way to do the research and build it. And the thing is, a lot of people say, no, I don't believe there is a secret space program. Well, I don't understand why we keep saying that, because the government has confirmed it. And let's see, where there was in 2013 at the disclosure meetings, there was a citizens hearing on disclosure in 2013. Senator Mike Gravel, he said, and I quote, I wrote this down for you so I'm not going to miss it. We have a space force. It is in existence. It is there. Which means a force that's military. A space military. That is the secret space program. And this is what Gary McKinnon over in England, you know, that hacker that hacked into NASA's computer looking for UFOs and the secret space program, he found the secret space program, and he saw several ships. There was about a battalion of about 10 or more ships. Two of them was named USS LeMay, and another one was named USS Hillenkotter. And these ships, they were run by free energy. And also, he found a list of the crew on one of those ships, and they had some 30 of them that was named as non-terrestrial crew.
Mm.
I'm sure you know about this, Keith, and this gets very deep.
So what are they doing back there? What are they doing on the dark side of the moon? What's taking place?
Well, there is actually on this side of the moon, they have a slave labor camp of some whole bunch of the kids that is disappearing every year. And they kind of grow them there, and they become workers, you know. And on the backside, there is a large mining operation that is done in conjunction with an alien species that is probably more experts at mining than what we are. And of course, I say we with tongue-in-cheek. It's not you and me. It's the dark forces of government that is doing this, and these people that run the secret space program. And
let you say that, Augie. From the chat room, Karen asked a question. I always wondered about these space programs. How many countries are actually in on this to keep it a secret? Isn't there an ambassador from every country up there?
Yeah, there's a representative. They don't call them ambassadors so much, but there is a head of each delegation to it. And the United States is, of course, it's not the United States. It's the big cabal behind it that is doing this. And
right.
Many countries have the same. The Russians are working very closely with, let's call it the Americans up there. And you may also have heard that during the Second World War, the Hitler war machine built flying discs.
Yeah, the German Bell.
Yeah, the German-built Haunebue 2, 3, and well, 1, I don't think they have much of it because the Haunebue 1 was unstable and it crashed a lot, so they kind of abandoned it. But Haunebue 2 and the Haunebue 3, they, I don't know what they have now, but these are flying saucer-like discs, and they have a base on the moon. In fact, on my website, I have pictures of one of the buildings that they are operating out of, and it's, oh gosh, I forget which page it is now, but it looks like a large swastika, and it is very old, hundreds of thousands of years old. But when the Germans saw that building, they fell in love, and they started rehabilitating a part of the building for their base. And that's where they are. And the Americans are up there, Russians are up there, there's some Brits up there, and I believe that there are alien races that is working with them. But this is something that is hard to confirm, except for there's some whistleblowers now that is coming out talking about stuff.
And
like
for those out there in Center of Light Radio land, this sounds a little hard to digest. Feel free to go to Google Images and type in the German bell, and you will see, and it will confirm to you exactly what my guest Aage Nost is talking about.
And here there's one more thing that I want to mention in that connection. There's a guy named Ben Rich. He was the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works that build some of these things and the future airplanes and stuff like that. And he said in a quote, and I wrote this one down too, so I'm not going to miss anything. We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do. We now have the technology to take E.T. home, and it won't take a lifetime to do it.
And you know, humans are occupying local space right now. A lot of humans were not born on Earth. They were born out there. Every planet in the galaxy, all over the universe. And what most people should consider is all the things that we think are just too far-fetched, they're more likely true than they are not true. Would you agree with that statement, sir?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, they're doing teleportation. In fact, there's supposed to be a huge Stargate in Antarctica that can bring them anywhere, the drop of a dime in the universe, yeah?
Yeah. And on my website, in the picture gallery, the photo gallery, on page 1, I have a picture of a NASA print that shows a 2-mile-long cigar-shaped ship floating across the surface of the moon, throwing a shadow on the ground. It's so clear you can't even argue it. And in there, also in the later ones, I think it's page 64 possibly. I got over 3,000 strange pictures there. I show a picture of the Stargate that the American military found in Iraq when they ran over the country here about 12 some years ago. You can go look at those pictures and you see a lot of stuff that you're not supposed to know about.
We're at the bottom of the hour. Today my guest is Mr. Aage Nost. And you can find him at his website, which is www.aage-nost.com. We're at the bottom of the hour. Is there anything you want to announce how our listeners can find more about you and your work other than your website? Is there any place else you would like to direct them to find some of your work or some of your books or your writings or videos, anything like that?
Yeah, I have a new website coming up. Another week or so it'll be activated, and that's for my radio show, which is the website for that is it is not perfect yet, so there's some work to be done on it, but you can see a lot of the pictures and a lot of the blogs that I've done. So it's www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And also check my name.
Go ahead.
Yeah, check my name on YouTube, and you'll find a bunch of the radio shows up there.
Lovely. Center of Light Radio, every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find me sitting in this chair, conducting affairs of the heart, bringing situations and subjects to light. You can bet on that. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go to the next one. Why prayer does not work. Tell me why prayer does not work.
Well, it's kind of like, think about, what is the prayer? It is kind of like a request for a manifestation, right?
Yeah.
If you're going down the street talking to a guy in Japanese in New York, chances are he's not going to understand you, right? Probably. So we are using the wrong language, because prayer, first of all, is a request for something, and it doesn't stay in the physical. We have never been taught how to pray.
So let me ask you this. I'm getting an intuitive feeling that I know where you're going with this. Prayer is basically, it has a few components, and to support what you're saying. Prayer means I don't have the power within myself as to why I'm reaching, quote, out or up with this supplication. 2, once we verbalize or visualize or affirm the prayer, we're pretty much done with it. It's not part of our vibrational ongoing field as to why it doesn't have the oomph or the punch or the power to bring forth the manifestation that we have beseeched from the universe. Would that be correct?
That is pretty close to being the way that it is. There's actually a book out there. It's called Healing Words and Prayer is Good Medicine, and they are showing that people that get together and use the spiritual language, they can actually heal people.
Vibration?
And, the spiritual language is not one of words. It's one of emotion, vivid, colorful pictures, gratitude, love, and those emotional type of visualizations.
Well, let me ask you this. This is pretty powerful. So I totally get it. I totally get it. So instead of going into prayer and murmuring some words in our consciousness, totally agreed. English language is not the universal language. It's vibration, and we're mostly in vibration when we in our feeling base. So what you say would be more accurate and more beneficial versus reciting some words silently within, but just a whole vibration of joy. Would that be more effective?
Absolutely. You don't need words. The silent prayer with emotion, love, and vivid pictures has much, much more power to it than the words does, because words are only here in the physical, where it can travel through the air and make vibrations. The emotion is a carrier of thought. So if we put a lot of emotion into it, and especially the emotion of love, that will surround what you direct it towards, and it'll raise the vibration of everything in it, so that it can heal itself, or whatever that other thing is. And of course, now we wonder, what is that other thing, right? While we're on this one, let's take about 2 minutes to explain something and really get people puzzled and looking outside of the box. I'll ask you and the listeners a question. And one of them is that I'll give you something to think about. First set the stage so that you'll understand that question, because science for the last 300 years has told us that we cannot create anything from nothing. Matter and energy cannot be created from nothing. Then again, we have some of the sharpest people on the planet, like Stephen Hawking at Cambridge University in England, and most other theoretical physicists. They're saying that their equations on the blackboard using quantum physics show this universe was created from nothing. Now, if the whole universe is created from nothing and everything in it is created from nothing, and you are in this universe created from nothing, what are you?
Totally get it.
I paused on purpose there, Keith.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I say the same thing differently. If, let's use the word God, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, source, whatever is the beginning, the alpha and the omega, what does that make everything in the middle? If you have a point and you draw a straight line, you're no longer seeing 2 points. You're seeing one line. Is this where you're going with that, sir?
Yeah. And you see, the brain is just like a computer. The mind is the hardware that is laid on top of the computer so the computer can do what it does. The mind is eternal. The brain will die with you whenever, if you ever die, referring back to our previous conversation. So there is things here that is well hidden for the people. And you will never find it in the box. You got to start reading books, and you got to go to YouTube and look outside of the box because it's there, and listen to Keith's shows. I mean, I have listened to a lot of them because there's pearls in there, and he don't even know where the pearls are sometimes, but they're there because. And
I'm glad you're talking about this because a lot of people are pissed off and they're upset at the fact that we don't know all the secrets and why are they keeping this from us? I get it. I share some of those same feelings, but there is a greater, like you said, there is a pearl in the not knowing. Someone says that, I had a recent conversation with someone about certain things since the Council of Nicaea that were taken out of biblical scripture and certain things that were not allowed in. And they said, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. And I totally agree with the idea because I think we have to want something. I think that's the magic. Those things that are hidden, they're hidden for a divine reason, not necessarily a man, elite, global cabal reason, because everything ultimately goes back to source. And so what would be the reason why we don't know all these things that can change our lives? Because I think it creates a posture and a disposition in us to really want something, to really want it. Someone says, if someone was to tell me they found God under a rock or they had enlightenment by looking under a rock, I'm not going to go because I doubt you. I'm going there because I want it.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that if people have a particular religion they believe very strongly in order to find the truth, you can always find it if you go back to its source. And the source of Christianity was not Jesus. He was not a Christian. You go back to 325 in Nicaea or Constantinople, Turkey right now, and you get your hands on the minutes or the notes from those meetings that lasted over a year, actually. And 223 people got together. They were ordered to go there by Constantine, the emperor of the Roman Empire, and he told them, go to Nicaea, create a religion which will unify my empire, and do not emerge before you have done so. They did.
Yes. We have a couple of questions from the chat room. I love honoring my peeps in the chat room. Bluebird asked the question, does the guest have any insight on what our space brothers think about our behavior here on Earth? I'm sure, Bluebird, you probably have your own answer. It's probably going to align with my guess.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, but you probably don't want to know.
I guess the answer's encrypted in that last message, right?
Actually, that is not totally true. We act like total morons to them, and compared to them, we are. Because, hey, let's look at the word. A moron is a medical term for somebody with an IQ less than 50. So compared to them, we are. But the thing about it is that there are many alien species out there that is looking at us as someone that is now, we're in the cocoon, and shortly we will become a butterfly. So they are helping us, not necessarily physically, but they are injecting a higher vibration across the globe to those that is willing and capable of receiving it and do something with it. And you see the star children, and you have people now that can have phenomenal abilities. There are more psychics now that actually is correct about things than ever before. We are raising the mind capacity and the frequency of people across the globe, because every 2,600 years this happens. We are passing through a regional space where there is energy coming out of the center of the galaxy, which is the black hole right there, and we're passing through it. So those that is of a higher vibration, we will be able to come out on the other side in a different, higher vibrational existence or dimension, if you want, The ones that are at the lower vibrations, they're going to go through it, and it's going to be hell for them. And they come out on the other side, and they're going to have to start their muck all over again. And good riddance, I'm not going to be part of them, so I'm ready to move up.
From our chat room, Tall White asked a question. If our body is like a machine with organic tissue, what is in our brain that makes it live beyond the vessel?
Okay. Let's just, I'll answer that in two sections. Let's first stay with the vessel. This vessel is, remember what I said about what are you? We are actually a hologram. We are a mind-projected holographic existence. We're not even life here. Physical is not even
right.
Life. We are a holographic existence that is projected from the mind. That our mind is part of the larger mind, so we have access to that at that level. And that is the white light, is not photonic light. It's a higher vibratory light that has a form. When it enters the physical, it turns into an electric charge that actually fuels the cells in the body and holds them alive. Holds them working, should I say. But if, let's say, when the physical body quit working, dies, then it's dead, what spiritual is concerned. But the mind lives on. The mind never dies. It moves up the ladder, and it moves into a region where there is no space and time, except for the lower astral worlds. You still have that. But you move into a re-education of what is there, because what you have here on Earth, that is also staying with you a little bit after you leave. So you got to have a little bit of a re-education. You got to see how the higher vibrations work, and you will go through a re-education to the point where you know, did I complete what I entered physical existence for, or did I not? If you find that you didn't, then there were some things that you want to experience that you didn't get to experience. You may want to go back and do another lifetime over again. And a lot of people end up in that circuit going back because they miss something, and there's something that the spark of life, the soul, want the experience of having. So it is programmed into you, and there are helpers on the outside of the physical that helps us guide us through this path that is to a great extent predetermined for us. And that's what I call the master plan of life.
You know, I bet when we pass, the first epiphany we get must be just huge. I mean, the explosion of awareness and the explosion and the aha and the enlightenment of the past incarnation as well as other incarnations and the possibilities of future incarnations, whether you choose to go back now, whether you choose to go back what may appear 1,000 years, whether you may even reincarnate to what we call the past and to a couple of hundred years ago. But getting that initial awakening once we cross over must be just, well, it has to be cosmic.
Yeah, and what you just said is actually right. Let's say for somebody that dies tomorrow, they don't have to reincarnate in the future. You can go back 1,000 years. If there was something back there that was attractive to you and you see an experience that you want to relive, you can put yourself into that physical time frame and live a lifetime that far back.
Yeah, because that reality is still vibrating. It never dies. It's just that we just choose to bounce around creator mind. I'd like to get to a question that seems like it's going to be fun and everyone can really enjoy and begin to put this into practice. Number 8, you have how to see and take pictures of UFOs and extra physical, quote, things around you all the time. And you say everyone can do it. How do we go about that, sir?
Oh, it's so simple that it's almost funny. Get your hands on a 4th generation night vision goggles. What those do is that they allow you to see higher up into the light spectrum than what your eyes can do. And I will, okay, now I'm really going out on a limb. You will, not may, you will see flying saucers, you see triangles, you see oddball-shaped type of craft flying in the sky, because they are slightly out of the visual cue of what your eyes are able to pick up. Art Bell not Art Bell, it was George Norrie that on Coast to Coast, he did a show on this, and he had the goggles there with him, and he explained what he saw, and hey, it was phenomenal. This is one way to do it. Now there's another way to see other things. Then there's about a 45-second story here that I'll tell you, and that is that there was a guy over in France back in the, I think it was the 1950s or 60s. He took pictures of dead people all the time with a regular camera. But what he did, he went up to the graveyard where there was a fresh grave, and he took a Tesla coil, put it next to the grave, walked away about 15, 20 feet, and took pictures towards that grave, and he could see the guy that just died standing next to the grave, right in front of him. And the people in town, when he showed these pictures, they thought he was working with Satan, of course, religious. So they ran him out of town. He had to move. They would have killed him if he had not moved.
Yeah, that seems to be catching on. It seems to be a reoccurring theme that people who say too much about too much end up getting, whacked.
Yeah. There is one thing, we've talked about both a little bit of solutions here and the problem. There is one thing that we can really do to help mankind, help ourselves, and help the world, and that is take advantage of the Mastermind principle. The Mastermind principle is that when two or more minds are united in harmony, they create a third mind that creates the potential mind power of the two or more of them multiplied by each other. And about some 20 years ago, Art Bell did an experiment on the Coast to Coast show, and I was listening that night. And Texas had not had any rain for over 3 months. Everything
I remember that, sir. Please tell the story. Yes.
Yeah, and there were brush fires and everywhere, and the cattle was dying from lack of water. Towns ran out of water, and Art Bell told the listeners, all 15 million of us that night, visualize rain over Texas. That next day there were thunderstorms all over Texas, and the weather forecasters came out and said, gee, we're dumbfounded. There were, in the computer models, there were no moisture anywhere that could create this, but it did. They didn't understand it. The mind, our mind, the mastermind created that rain. And we can do the same thing. Families should get together and have family meetings and visualize something that they want together. Communities should do that. States should do that. Mankind should do this and visualize something into existence that they want to happen. And things will start happening.
Totally. I love the idea of visualization. I've been doing these bursts of light live feeds, and one night I was talking about explosive clarity, and I used the image of a flawless diamond. Place it in your third eye, also place it in your heart, and you can still have the same imagery without the diamond, but the diamond kind of gives you a base. It gives you a base of always wanting to be clear, and you hold your imagery in the diamond for the second component of clarity. And so visualization is such a powerful thing, and when we back that with absolute joy and feeling it to be right and real and concrete, like you said, rain will appear out of nowhere. The Indians used to do it, hence the rain dance.
Yeah, and the Native Americans used to do that. I'm not so sure they know how to do it anymore, but they used to do it, and it worked for them.
So how do we communicate with intelligence outside the physical?
It is by the spiritual language. That emotion, and vivid, colorful pictures, love and so on, then you communicate with the higher vibrations. Then again, there are electronic equipment that you can very easily make in order to communicate with, let's say you have a ghost in the house. You want to find out what does he want. Take a tape recorder or some electronic device and build an antenna with preferably copper wire. Build it in a kind of wind it around and around and around in kind of like a funnel type funnel, maybe a 45-degree angle funnel, going to be bigger and bigger as you go out, and put the apex of that funnel next to the microphone on the tape recorder or the recording device. Turn it on and walk away. You're going to hear stuff.
Wow. Knowing me, I'm going to go get some copper tomorrow.
Yeah. Because for some reason, it's just wire, and even though they're not touching each other, they can be close to touching each other. There's gaps in between, but the sound is picked up by the wire and transferred down to the end next to the microphone and transmitted right there and being recorded. So theoretically, I don't know how the physics of that will work, but it seems to work.
Well, I can tell you from a musician point of view that when you look at a guitarist playing his guitar, those little square things you see in the middle, they're pickups, and what they are magnets wrapped with copper wire. So somehow copper plays a part in an amplification process. So it makes very much sense to me that using copper will conduct the energy, the higher bandwidths or the lower bandwidths or the other bandwidths that we're just not aware of that exist.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So let me ask you this. What is the self-aware mind-created universe? Would this be the hologram that you were speaking about a little earlier?
Yes, that is part of it, because we are that part of the self-aware universe. But the self-aware universe is here we go again, also called God. Because it is the source of all things, because it is the mind and the intelligence behind it all. It's the one that creates the intelligence that we call our soul, the spark of life. And now I'm going to lean on quantum physics here. If this universal self-aware consciousness creates everything there is, when we are working with that, well, let's say we think about something in the universe. By thinking it, we actually give it a low form of life and we create it. The part of the universe, and I think Stephen Hawking talked about this, that a big part of the universe does not even exist unless somebody thinks about it.
Right.
Or
totally
observing it. So it's not even there until somebody thinks about it and are observing it.
You know, I always say, we can water the weed or we can water the plant. And whatever one we give our attention to is the one that will grow. So if you spend your time watering the plant, the weed does not exist for you, or vice versa, until you turn to that particular plant or weed or whatever it is you are focusing on in your life, and it becomes alive. It becomes present. It becomes manifested in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good analogy, because what we concentrate on, what we leave in our mind the most, that is what we're going to have in our life.
So tell me this, where does religions come from? This is a question we had on this list. Where do religions come from?
Well, religions, they can come from different places, but the source of it all ends up back in Babylonia, and you can read about it in the Sumerian tablets. The British Museum, National Museum, have a lot of them, and where you can actually find more of it is the Topkapi Museum in Istanbul, Turkey, especially the notes from the meeting at Nicaea. You can find them there and read them. You can probably even get a French, it's in French, but you can use Google Translate and you can probably read it. Oh gosh, now I lost my train of thought. What was that again?
The question.
I strayed off on you, and I
love that you were just intervened by an alien from the dark side.
Yeah.
We were talking about where religions come from, and you said
that was it. No, it goes back to the Babylonian and the Sumerian tablets. In the old Sumerian language, the word God means great leader. And the word Angel means messenger. See, the word God was given a meaning it was never meant to have. So if somebody say, an angel from God came and spoke to me, I have no problem with that. A messenger from our great leader came and spoke to me, that's perfectly all right with me. See, it's been twisted.
Aage, we are at the top of the hour. Thank you for being a wonderful guest here on Center of Light Radio. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much. And go visit my website and watch the pictures and poke around there. You're going to enjoy it.
Thank you again. Would you give out your contact information once more, your website address?
Yeah, that's www.aage-nost.com. So it's www.myfirstname-mylastname.com.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your presence here on Center of Light Radio. You're welcome back anytime.
Hey, thank you.
Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard here. It's time for me to go play some repulsive, loud rock and roll. Next week on Center of Light Radio, my guest is Anastasia Netri, and we're going to be talking about her book, beautiful, gorgeous, bound book, Strip Down and Wake Up. Self-realization for regular people. No chanting, yoga pants, or hard drugs required. I love it. Center of Light Radio fires off every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I look forward to seeing you here. Remember, when you have nothing to do, you're laying down at night and you're about to go to bed, breathe. 10, 15 minutes of this, 20 minutes of this. You found yourself in a profound ocean of absolute silence. And in that silence, you will be able to hear everything that is possible. It's all right there waiting on you to tap into the source. Meditation is the way to do that. And also, go to centeroflightradio.com, fill out that sign-up form to get some free cool stuff, as well as that red Ferrari in the bottom. Click on it to become a part of the RPM program. Send me an email at keithanthonyblanchard@gmail.com saying, Keith, I want my free session. We'll get you started in the expansion process so you can move into the window of your best life. Peace, love. Have a wonderful evening.